All right, so we're using those same skills as the day before the Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally's, but we're also going to combine like terms, which is kind of, or not kind of, it is part of the add or subtract, right? It's part of it. But combine like terms means we add numbers with the same variable. Okay, it has to have the same variable. Now the same variable can be just a x or nothing. All right, so we're gonna look at the back side, or if you're digital, the second page. We're gonna look at 15. So we got negative 3m minus m. Well, we can change this so that our brains can read it a little bit better. So we got negative 3m plus negative 3m. Now the reason why I know I'm technically adding these is I don't see any type of multiplication signs. And remember, multiplication signs could be a parentheses, a dot, a star. We don't use this anymore, but it could be that that multiplication x, but don't use that because I might get confused with the variable x. So we don't see any of these multiplication type symbols. So we are adding these two pieces together. So negative 3m plus a negative 3m. Well, what happens is we are adding two negatives together. So when you add two negatives together, your final answer is going to be negative. So really, you just need to figure out, what is 3 plus 3? Well, it's 6. And don't forget the variable. And look at that. Now we have a negative 6m. Okay, so when you're adding two negatives, it stays negative. 16, I think you can do. And 17, I think you can do. Let's look at 18. So 18, we got 5k minus 8 minus 2. Well, 5k is all by itself, right? It doesn't have a like term, right? Because we don't have any parentheses we're dealing with, or exponents, or multiplying, or dividing. We just have straight adding and subtracting that's happening here. So here we have negative 8 minus 2. Those are going to be combined because they're like terms. They don't have a variable. So on the side here, we can think of it as negative 8 plus negative 2. Again, we have two numbers that are both negative that are being added together. So that means my final answer will be negative. So really, when you add two negative numbers, it's just like adding two positive numbers. It's the same as adding 8 plus 2, right? Except that gives us 10, but when you're doing negative 8 plus negative 2, well, that's a negative 10. Oops. So we get negative 10 here. We didn't fiddle with the 5k, so we leave that 5k by itself. And that's our final answer, is 5k minus 10. 19. So we got parentheses now. So we got negative 8, parentheses 1 minus n, close that parentheses, minus 7. Well, in my parentheses here, I have 1 minus n. Well, these aren't like terms, so we can't do anything with them. They're just, that's it. That's all we can do there. But what we can do, remember, parentheses mean that we multiply. That's what parentheses mean. It's another version of showing multiplication. So what we got to do is we got to look at the number that's straight up right next to the parentheses. And that number that's straight up right next to that parentheses is this negative 8. And when it's straight up right next to like that, that's secret multiplication. And usually, for the most part, your secret multiplication that you can find for parentheses will be in the front. Most times it will not be in the back because that gets confusing. So for the most part, it should be up front. So we got a negative 8, and we're going to multiply this into my parentheses. So negative 8 times 1, that's a negative 8. A negative and a positive stay negative. Then we got negative 8 times negative n. Well, that's a positive 8n, right? Because we have a negative times a negative. We didn't mess with that negative 7, so we bring it down. All right, like terms here is the -8 and the -7. So on the side I'm going to write we're doing -8 plus -7. Well, they both are negative, and when we add two negatives, your answer stays negative, right? So if you know that that is true, and if you remember what 8 plus 7 is, then you know what -8 plus -7 is, which gives us a -15, okay? We didn't mess with that plus 8n, so we just bring it down, because there's no like term for that guy. He's lonely. All right, let's look at 20. So 20, we have a parentheses, but we can't do anything. We can't do 1 plus 3k. They're not like terms. So we got to get rid of that parentheses somehow, and parentheses mean multiply, so that means we're going to be multiplying this 8, and it's positive, so that's even better. So 8 times 1 is an 8. And we need that positive, that plus symbol to show that it's positive up front, because what we multiplied is right smack in the middle of our expression. There's going to be something in front of it, so I still need to show its symbol. So we got then positive 8 times positive 3k gives us a positive 24k. And then we didn't mess with that -7k, so we're going to bring it down. Like terms here, our like terms are -7k and 24k. So we got to be careful. So we got -7k plus 24k. So we're adding two numbers that have different signs. So we got to choose the bigger number sign. Well, the bigger number sign is positive, and because 24 is bigger than 7. So our final answer is going to be positive. So now what we do is we subtract these numbers, but in the way that our brain remembers how to do it, right? Our brains like to do 24, the bigger number, minus the smaller number. So what's 24 minus 7? Well, that's 14. So we're going to have a positive 14k. And then we didn't mess with this plus 8, we bring it down. Now this looks kind of silly, right? If that positive 14k is at the front of our expression, we don't really need to write the positive. I mean, you can. It's not wrong. It just looks kind of goofy for what we've been learning pretty much our entire lives. But this is our final answer. 21. I want you to try 21. I want you to try 22. Let's do 23 together. So this time we got two parentheses. And in both of these, we can't do the work inside. So that means we need to get rid of the parentheses by using some multiplication. So that means we're going to multiply twice. So the first parentheses has a -7 up front. So we're going to take that -7 and multiply both terms that are inside of the parentheses with the -7. So that gives us a -49 here. -7 times a positive 7p is a -49p. The second parentheses, the number that's getting multiplied, is the -5. So -5 times p is a -5p. -5 times 2, careful here, that is a -10. Now we're going to start combining like terms. So I always like to start with the first number. So we got -49 and -10. So we got -49 plus -10. Okay, so we're adding two numbers with the same sign. So that means my sign is going to stay the same. And I just add the numbers. So I got to figure out what's 49 plus 10. Well, that's 59. So my final answer is a -59. Now let's look at our next set. We have another set of like terms, -49 and -5. P, -49p and -5p. I keep forgetting to say the variable. So we got -49p plus -5p. Well, again, we have the same sign. So we're going to keep that sign because we're adding. So we're going to still stay negative. Now we just add the number parts. 49 plus 5 is 54. And then don't forget the variable p. So this would be your final answer. So why don't you try 24 and 25 based on that example? And 26 is extra credit. The only hint I'm going to give you is technically in front of this first parentheses is a -1. But 24 and 25 I want you to do on your own. This is extra credit. All right, good luck.